Hi guys, welcome to GOO ROO Beauty. I'm Jodi and had to post this Illamasqua haul that I picked up in Melbourne back in June for two reasons. It's been sitting in the corner of my room waiting to be filmed to show you what I did buy from Illamasqua in Melbourne, but also just this week Illamasqua has launched a new campaign fighting for a fair price for Australian women for cosmetics, and they're asking you to sign a petition. I'm posting a link down in the description bar down below for you to sign that petition to fight not only for a fair price for Illamasqua, who has pledged to give us a lower price, but also to show the bigger cosmetic companies that we want to fight for a fair price for cosmetic products in Australia. And we certainly are asked to pay a fair wallop for our products over here. Hence my channel, where I tell you where you can pick things up for less than the recommended retail, which is often exorbitant and ridiculous. Unfortunately, Illamasqua is nowhere to be found in Perth on the western side of Australia, despite the fact that we have 2 million people here. So I did have to go to Melbourne, to Maya, to discover the brand and see what I could find. And at the time, back in June, they were having quite a discount, I think up to 40% off a lot of their products. So I did buy quite a few, and I have since ordered quite a few products from Sephora, a lot of the cream and powder blushes that are absolutely gorgeous, and they're sitting with my sister in America while she's waiting to fill a box to send over to me, a haul for which I will be filming. So without any further ado, I did buy some face products from Illamasqua. I bought the Illamasqua Skin Base. I just got another shade I'm really enjoying actually. Love the packaging, love the formulation. I really like it. It's quite yellow based. It's a nice coverage. It's not too matte, it's not too dewy. It stays quite nice throughout the day. Really enjoying that skin base foundation. And then I also picked up a limited edition with gold shimmer Illamasqua Skin Base, and it's so funny. It just goes to show how little some makeup artists at their counters know about their products. This is in the shade AU, and she convinced me at the time that this was a limited edition to Australia, just only available on the Australian market, pointing to the AU. Now the AU, I've since realized, refers to the gold shimmer in the product, not the fact that it's in Australia, AU Australia. You know, she didn't really know a whole lot about her product. This is it here. It's a gold shimmer that you may or may not be able to see on the camera, but I just thought that would be fantastic for bronzing up this foundation. It's a beautiful formulation, again, really gold shimmers in the product, and just really looking forward to using that with the skin base and mixing it around for summer for a more sort of glowy, bronzy look. Now, another glowy product I picked up from Illamasqua reminds me of a MAC loose powder that I picked up recently in Silver Dusk. Silver Dusk from MAC is a silvery loose powder highlight, and this one is the powdered metal in ether, and it's a gold shimmery powder. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I just thought I had to have a little gold cousin to go with my Silver Dusk, and that's it there. Just beautiful for a gold shimmer. You could use that as a highlighter on your face and certainly on your eyes or on your lips. Then I fell in love with quite a few of their powder blushes. I did get this single color in the powder blusher called Nymph. Nymph, you can see, is a cool toned pink. That's it on my finger. Really, really gorgeous. I'll just show you it there. I fell in love with their Naked Strangers line, their Zygomatic cream blush and also their Naked Rose powder blush. They're two products that I have coming to me from Sephora. I cannot wait to show you that haul. But the one product I did pick up from the Naked Strangers line is the Neutral palette. The Neutral palette is an eyeshadow palette that contains 4 shades, and I need another neutral palette like a hole in the head, but I couldn't resist. They're absolutely beautiful shades, and I had to give Illamasqua's eyeshadows a go. So we have Stealth, Vintage, Obsidian, and Wolf. It's a beautiful quad of eyeshadows. I'll swatch it for you. You can see here it's 3 matte colors, the off-white, this beautiful brown and black, and then we've got a shimmery gold there. Beautiful line of eyeshadows, really creamy, really pigmented. Very, very happy with that palette indeed. I think the Naked Strangers line is still available. And then I picked up a bronzing duo as well. I really liked the look of this one in the store. This is just called the Bronzing Duo, and then it lists the colors Glint and Burnish on the back. That's them there on my hand. You can see they're not the most matte. They both have a bit of a sheen. No glitters that I can see, but a nice sort of peachy bronze shade and then a really sort of peachy highlighted blush shade, and I really like that product quite a lot. And then the very last product that I bought that was on discount, I could have gone crazy with their Pure pigments, but I did pick up the Pure pigment in the color Ore. It's a really pretty shimmery type brown. The packaging I'm not thrilled about. It does just have a hole in the middle of a plastic container, and you can see the potential for that getting very, very messy, but the product, absolutely gorgeous. A really shimmery golden brown that you could not only pack on its own for beautiful color, but just pat it on top of any eyeshadow for a beautiful sparkly effect. That is everything that I picked up from Illamasqua at the Maya in Melbourne. I will be posting some more Illamasqua products when they do arrive over from America. Do sign the petition that I have down below. Let's see what happens with this thing. It is quite exciting, and to hear anyway that we are going to be paying less for Illamasqua in Australia alone is definitely something to celebrate. So thank you, Illamasqua, very much for giving us a fair price in Australia. I will support that and do appreciate it. And the other half of this video is to share with you, Illamasqua has launched a brand new campaign about fighting for a fair price for beauty cosmetics in Australia, and I will post a link down below in the description bar to the petition that is being passed around. Everyone in the beauty community here online is passing around this petition, and it's a fantastic idea. Obviously, we do want a fairer price. We do want a price that's closer to the US girls and the UK girls, and then we'd be able to support our local stores. We're going to pay more in Australia than the ladies are asked to pay in the United States. It makes sense to me. From the perspective of someone with a marketing degree, I majored in marketing at university, it makes sense with supply and demand and market size and economies of scale that we're going to pay more in Australia than the ladies are asked to pay in the United States. It makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me without further investigation why we do pay often 2 to 3 times the price that Americans pay for the same product. We pay a lot more for cosmetic products in Australia. No one really knows why. If you watch any Australian beauty gurus, including myself, you would have heard us whinge and whinge for years about the prices that we're asked to pay in Australia. For example, for a full-sized MAC lipstick here in Australia, we're asked to pay $36, and that's compared with the very exact same product in America, where the ladies are asked to pay $15. With the eyeshadows, a full-sized individual MAC eyeshadow in the clamshell, we're asked here in Australia to pay $33 versus again $15 in the USA. A full-size Illamasqua powder blusher in Australia costs $42. A full-sized Illamasqua powder blusher on the UK website costs the equivalent of $26 US. The ladies in the UK are asked to pay, I think, somewhere in between. I do often hear from UK viewers who say that they also pay a lot for makeup. I'm yet to be convinced that you pay as much in the UK as we do in Australia. We pay a lot, whether it's the drugstore brand of cosmetics, where we're asked to pay just under $32 for a Revlon Color Stay foundation versus about $11 or $12 in the USA for the very same Revlon Color Stay foundation. All of you ladies in the UK and around the rest of the world, you're very welcome to pipe in on the comments and let us know what you're paying as well. I do think that you fall somewhere in between the two of us, and it does seem unfair when Americans pay so much less for their cosmetic items. And I've always wondered why this is, and I think that there's a few reasons for it. First of all, the population. I think America has about 300 million people. We have only 22 million people in Australia compared to 300 million people in America. That's about 15 times the market size of ours here in Australia. When you're looking at those numbers, 22 million versus 300 million, you can see why these cosmetic companies might price their products a little bit lower in a much bigger market. They can sell a lot more units for less dollars, equals a lot more profit. The US market is a large market where these big corporations make most of their money. With supply and demand, if you are marketing to a large number of people, you can afford to charge a lower price than if you're selling less units and you still need to make a certain amount of money to even make it worth being in the market, to make it worth transporting the product, to make it worth marketing the product, etc., etc. We also have less disposable income, in my opinion, to spend on cosmetics. In my mind, the wages are probably pretty comparable. I don't believe that we're paid more in Australia for the same job as you are in America, and we pay similar rates of income tax. When I say that we have less disposable income to spend on cosmetics, I know this from experience. I've lived the last time for 8 years in the United States, and we spend a lot more money on things like food here in Australia. We spend a lot more money on things like petrol and gas here in Australia, where we currently pay about $4.80 for a gallon of unleaded petrol or gas. We just have less money to spend on cosmetics. Now, I'm not sure if it's just the 10% GST that we're asked to pay with cosmetic items here in Australia. I'm convinced that there must be more taxes that are hidden inside those retail prices, things that include import taxes. I'm not sure how much it costs to run a business in Australia, but I've always thought it must have something to do with the fact that we pay a much higher minimum wage. Priceline, for example, would be paying a lot more per hour for the girls in there versus what Walgreens would be paying their staff per hour. Besides the fact that there's a market, when you're a cosmetic company entering a market, you don't charge the same price all over the world, regardless of the factors and the environmental conditions. If I, for example, started selling lipsticks in Australia, I have a cost to consider. How much does it cost me to manufacture this product, transport it to the country, pay the staff, promote this product, pay the taxes, all the considerations that you have when you're entering international markets. Do you have to pay the mafia to be on market? What do you have to pay to protect yourself, to pay rent, to pay, what are all your overheads? They are different from country to country. You are going to price your product according to the market that you're marketing in. So Australian women pay $42 for an Illamasqua blush. Maya stocks it. It takes up room on their shelf. They want to sell it. Maya would not be stocking Illamasqua if they weren't selling product. Estee Lauder wouldn't be charging, what, $60 odd for their foundations if Australian women weren't paying it and making it worth their while. If I was going to launch a makeup line, I would look at branding and marketing, not just how much it cost me to make that product, not just how much I sell that product for in a completely different market on the other side of the world. I would also think about positioning. I would look at what Estee Lauder charges for a foundation versus what Rimmel charges for a foundation. If I want to market my product as a luxury product and convey things like quality, luxury, make women feel special when they're using that foundation, you know, have like a beauty, you know, department store branding, price is always an indicator to people of quality and positioning within the market. So if I was launching a product that I wanted to compete against Estee Lauder versus Rimmel, I would price that accordingly regardless of what my cost was. There are factors that go into it beyond fairness. So if I take off my hat as a consumer and put on my hat as a marketing degree graduate, there are so many more factors that come into it beyond fairness. And fairness is probably quite low on the scale of things as a marketer when you're marketing a product within each specific market. So I just want to make that clear that fairness is not going to be one of the top priorities for these big corporations when they're deciding how to price a product in Australia. We already have a market established. Australian women are paying a certain price for a certain number of products out there on the market, and you know, you need to decide where you're going to fall within this already established market. Illamasqua themselves price themselves according to the Australian market. All of a sudden they've decided to fight for a fair price. Well, they've been selling their powder blusher at Maya for $42. They've been selling that same powder blusher for the mid-20s in America and in the UK. Now, who's been making that money? Is Maya really putting away that extra $15, or is Illamasqua making a little bit more from that? Or is that eaten up by costs along the way of getting it to Australia, staffing the department stores? I don't know. I don't know who gets that money. I'm not sure that someone's making off with a whole lot of money with the prices that we pay in Australia. Maybe they are, and maybe they aren't. But in this day and age, with the global community and the internet and e-commerce as it is, it frustrates me to no end when there's companies like Nordstrom that publicize the fact that they ship internationally for free, but when it comes to cosmetic brands that you might want to buy from them like MAC, Estee Lauder, Chanel, they will not ship those products. Michael Kors handbags, anything that's marketed like that in Australia have restrictions. Nordstrom will not ship those products to Australia, and that's to protect the exorbitant Australian prices that are in place. Now, it used to be that way for CDs. I remember in the early 90s, we were paying $30 for a CD here in Australia. Americans were paying $12. Now in the age of iTunes, we're still paying more per song on iTunes than America, and Apple still has things in play, you know, where you can only sign on to the Australian website and link Australian bank accounts, and the American iTunes is different to the Australian iTunes, and we're paying different prices, and it is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous in this day and age that you are still segregating markets. While there are reasons, I think that these companies, when you get to a certain size, you look at a global market, and that would make a lot more sense to me. We are still going to get our hands on these products online. We're going to have our relatives ship these products to us by mail if we can. We're going to do swaps. We're going to do these things to get these products for less, and I think that's going to happen more and more. And I think just as we saw with CDs, those prices for music coming down into line, the gap is closing. I think the same thing's going to happen with beauty products as well. Companies already are ahead of the game. The balm.com, while their shipping charges are still quite a bit, they are shipping to Australia. Companies like benefit.com, we Australians can actually pay US recommended retail prices at benefit.com. With a minimum spend of about $120, they will ship to us for free. So there are companies already on top of this, already shipping to us here in Australia at US prices, if you don't mind shopping online, and I think that it's definitely going to go more that way. So regardless of all the reasons that we can think of why we would be paying more for products in Australia, I think with this global economy and e-commerce and the internet being accessible to so many people in the world today, I think that we are going to see that gap closing. So stay tuned. But I do want to put this campaign for Illamasqua into perspective, and I don't want to make any enemies here, but let's look at it. Illamasqua is not a huge player in the market in Australia. I live in Western Australia in Perth. There's not a single location in this capital city with 2 million people that I can look at Illamasqua. Nowhere on this entire side of the country can we find Illamasqua. They've probably got 5 locations in various flagship Myer stores on the East Coast, and they've decided they're going to reduce their prices. Now, when a brand decides to reduce their prices, they also adjust their brand and market positioning in terms of how you're seen, what your competitors are. Now, Illamasqua is a fantastic quality product, and if they want to lower their prices, people are going to be very happy to be paying a lower price. I certainly would be. I'd certainly be more inclined to buy Illamasqua here in Australia versus ordering Illamasqua from Sephora in America, having it delivered to my sister's house, and then having her pay for postage to ship it to me in Australia, because that is still significantly cheaper than what we're currently paying at Myer for Illamasqua, if I could even get it, if I was living in Sydney. So all of that being said, I don't think it's very likely that Illamasqua is going to hand this wonderful shiny petition to these large Estee Lauders and Louis Vuitton brands and Chanel and Yves Saint Laurent and Clinique and say, look, Australian women really want a fair price and they think it's unfair the prices that you've been charging them. I think it's very unlikely that these large corporate brands are going to turn around and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize so many Australian women were unhappy paying those prices. We've been selling X amount of units at X amount of dollars, and hey, if we reduce the price, we might sell more units. I'm not convinced about that, girls. I'm just not. And while some of the prices make certain brands prohibitive, and if the prices were lower, then maybe you might be able to establish a larger market, I'm just not sure if these companies think that they can increase their profits by lowering prices. And I don't think a petition from Illamasqua is going to be enough to convince these large companies to lower their prices. So Illamasqua, I commend you. Girls, I want to let you know a little secret. I don't think Illamasqua cares what we pay Chanel or Estee Lauder. This is about what we're paying Illamasqua. This is a marketing campaign by Illamasqua to grow their market in Australia. I think it's fantastic. I think that they recognise that Australian women are not happy with the fact that they're paying 2 to 3 times as much for the same product. They've certainly got a long way to go to penetrate the Australian market, if you ask me, and I do think in all reality that this is a fantastic marketing campaign for Illamasqua. It's receiving free publicity. This flies through the online community like nobody's business, and it's fantastic. This is free product and brand exposure for a brand that really doesn't have a huge profile in Australia in the consumer market. So well done, Illamasqua. I'm really impressed from an academic point of view, the way that you have orchestrated the campaign. I think it's fantastic. I love it. And I'll be really interested to see if there are any changes with the other companies which you seem to pinpoint in your campaign to manipulate consumers, to see if there are any effects of your campaign. So I'll be waiting with bated breath. Yes, we would be happy to pay less for Illamasqua. Yes, I would love if Illamasqua came to town so I could look at it. That would be fantastic. The other interesting thing that I saw on Wayne Goss's videos, I saw some comments there of people who are already paying the lower prices, like in the US market, concerned that they would be subsidizing these lowered prices at Illamasqua in Australia. If you are American and you're paying these nice prices for Illamasqua right now, which to you don't seem that low, the point is that the Australian market is still a drop in the ocean to companies like Illamasqua. Lowering the prices in Australia is not going to make a zip of difference to the prices that they're charging in America. You will not see a single difference in your pricing as a result of lowering prices in Australia. It's just not a big enough market. I am a little bit skeptical. Anyone who's signing this petition with the thought that we're going to see prices drop suddenly from these other large companies, I think that we're kidding ourselves a little bit there. I don't think that they're going to look at a petition and say, oh, Australian women want to pay less. Okay, let's just drop our prices and make it a little bit fairer. I don't think that fairness is high in the list of priorities for these companies, and I think that they know how many units they're selling at the prices they're currently charging. However, as more and more companies like Illamasqua come in and challenge the status quo, you know, if these large companies lose enough market share to these high quality competitors, then we may see prices across the board level out to something closer to America. But I think that's definitely a long-term thing, and I think that anything in the short term is very unlikely. But I would encourage you all to check out Illamasqua where you can. They are currently in Australian Myer stores in Sydney City, Melbourne City, Chadstone, Bondi, Robina, is that how I pronounce it, all you Queenslanders, and Brisbane City. They are also available on myer.com.au. You can check out the prices there. We're still paying the exorbitant prices on myer.com.au, so looking forward to seeing when those prices change. But it's a really clever marketing campaign for Illamasqua. I commend them. I think it's a fantastic way to get free press, free publicity. They really understand this online marketing channel through YouTube, blogs, Twitter. Everyone in the beauty community who has anything to do with Australia is communicating about this, and I think that's a great thing. I'd certainly love to see Illamasqua grow their Australian market, especially if it means that they come to Perth. Illamasqua, please come to Perth. I wish you all the luck. I hope that you grow big enough to come to Perth. I'm looking forward to seeing you over here. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it's given you some food for thought, and I would love to hear your comments and generate discussion definitely about this issue. I certainly haven't done all the research that I would like to do to feel comfortable with the whys and hows of the situation, but would love to hear from all of you what your thoughts are. Thank you all so much for watching. Would love to hear your comments down below, and have a beautiful day. See you all again really soon. Bye.